The Stonehenge City Jazzmen. I was stationed at RAF Yatesbury, which was a training college, basically, or training base, when I was in the RAF. It was a pretty isolated place on the top of the downs in Wiltshire, and in those days, really quite isolated. A kind of rather, I wouldn't say creepy, but there was a certain atmosphere there. Directly opposite to the camp was cut into the hillside was a chalk horse, and no more than 10 minutes walk away you had Silbury Hill, Avebury, and the famous Barrow opposite to Silbury Hill. So particularly if you're wandering about at night, it was really quite strange. There were quite a lot of musicians there, and very quickly we put together a New Orleans band. We did a bit of rehearsing and this, that and the other, and I dreamt up the name the Stonehenge City Jazzmen. There was a dance once a week in Calne, which was the nearest small town, and we agreed with the people who run it that we should actually play the interval. There was a kind of local dance band who actually provided the music for dancing, and we became really popular. I mean, it was the time of the trad was king, as it were, and so we did quite a few gigs. I don't quite know how, but suddenly a man known only as Paddy was an Irish guy. I think he's from Dublin, who was the archetypal entrepreneurial Irishman, became our manager, as it were. So it was really quite good. Not a bad band at all. You've got to remember at this time that the military, they provided entertainment services, and New Orleans jazz was really quite popular. So in fact, bands would visit RAF Yatesbury and also RAF Compton Bassett, which was another RAF training school. So we weren't starved of actually, popular bands for the time. A highlight for ourselves was actually being the support band to the wild and beery Mick Mulligan band, which actually featured on bass, and I think valve trombone, Jerry Salisbury, who actually I got to know quite well in my Soho days, and also was in communication much later when he came back from where he'd been living in France and settled back in Lincolnshire. The real high spot of the career of the Stonehenge City Jazzmen, there was an annual talent contest held in Calne, and we entered into it. And I mean, the normal fare would be kind of local singers and the kids choir and this kind of thing. But we kind of took it by storm, It was highly popular, I suppose, probably for the younger people who were there, who'd been used to a fairly dull offering. It was a bit of a kind of revelation. It was also quite interesting. We were actually presented with a rose bowl, presumably chromium plated, not silver plated. Quite what happened to that, I don't know. But the mayor, who kind of oversaw the proceedings and the presentation, he really didn't look like a happy man with this bunch of people playing traditional jazz, winning the contest. He looked really most put out. What happened to the Stonehenge City Jazzmen personnel? Well, some of them I do know what happened to some of them. Pete Kennedy, who was the piano player, he went on to study at the Royal College of Surgeons in Dublin and became a doctor. His wife also was a doctor. Tong, only known as Tong, the banjo player, went back to Manchester, where in fact I met him from time to time. Most notably, Tony Pringle, who was the cornet player and a very dedicated New Orleans musician. He emigrated to America, where he had relatives, I presume, and in fact was the key member in a very, very successful band based in Massachusetts. Sadly, he's passed on now, but he did tell me that when he was touring, because this band, in fact, it did European gigs as well, he was in Belfast, and Jock Flint, he was called, the clarinet player, emerged from the audience and made himself known. I don't know that he was still playing, a Scots guy, but he'd obviously settled in Northern Ireland. So it was very formative for me. I mean, I was still a very ardent New Orleans kind of person at that time. This was to change. But really, really great times. And so I look back on what was really the first band I ever played for, the golden days of the Stonehenge City Jazzmen.
If you've enjoyed this video and would like to see more, please subscribe.